And the longest government shutdown in U.S. history has finally come to an end. The House passed a stopgap funding bill last night, and President Trump signed it a short time later. So after a 43-day shutdown, furloughed federal employees will head back to work. The process of back pay will get started, and other government-provided services will resume. And thousands of Iowans have been impacted by this shutdown as federal food assistance lapsed and flight schedules were reduced.
But now the big question is, what happens next? Our Megan McPherson is here to explain. And Megan, I know a lot of people have questions about this.
They do, Joseph and Dana. The reopening of the government, though, will bring back some normalcy for millions of Americans. And of course, that includes the thousands of Iowans that have been impacted by this shutdown the last several weeks. Now, all 4 members of Iowa's congressional delegation voted yes in favor of the bill. And here are 3 things that you need to know about it this morning. First, federal workers who were furloughed will start returning to work today. Second, full SNAP benefits will be restored, though it could take some states just a few days to do that. And third, airports may still face delays and cancellations for several days. The 6% flight cuts that we've been hearing about will remain in place for now. And while House Minority Whip Hakeem Jeffries vowed to keep fighting for affordable health care, House Speaker Mike Johnson says that he is open to discussions. However, he wants program reforms first.
Either Republicans finally decide to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits this year, or the American people will throw Republicans out of their jobs next year.
We got a lot of work to do on that. The Republicans would demand a lot of reforms before anything like that was ever possible.
The new funding bill does not extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits that help families pay for their monthly premiums. Senate Republicans agreed to hold a vote on that issue in December, but no similar deals have been made in the House. And hundreds of forced flight cancellations over the last week or so due to air traffic controller shortages. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy saying earlier this week that it may be some time before airline travel is back running at full capacity, but controllers should receive about 70% of their back pay within the next 24 to 48 hours and the remaining 30% within a week. Joseph.
All right, Megan, thank you. And Iowa's leaders are now reacting to the reopening of the federal government. First, we have a reaction from Republican Representative Zach Nunn. He said in the statement, quote, "While I'm glad we finally ended the gridlock, my Democratic colleagues need to understand what their political gamesmanship cost Iowa. I spent this completely avoidable shutdown hearing directly from Iowans who are missing paychecks, losing access to services, and worrying about how to feed their families," end quote.
And Governor Kim Reynolds said in a statement, quote, "While it should never have gotten to this point, I am relieved the shutdown has ended and that the federal government can resume its essential work on behalf of the American people," end quote. And this shutdown brought travel chaos all across the country as 40 major airports have reduced their air traffic, and Des Moines certainly felt some of those impacts. So let's take a look at the flights out of Des Moines International this morning. If you're looking at departures right now, there are a couple of delays, one from Atlanta, one to Minneapolis is going to be delayed, and then a cancellation if you are headed out to Detroit. Other than that, I believe everything else on the departure side is looking good. But as we check the arrivals, 2 flights this morning are going to be delayed. Well, one is delayed from Chicago, and then coming from Detroit is going to be canceled. But throughout the rest of the day, everything else is looking good.